I just want to start the class by mentioning that today is the yahrzeit of Rochel Imenu, unsere heilige Mama Rochel. They tell a story that I believe with my whole heart. That's how crazy I am. About a woman, this goes back, I don't know, 20 years, but since the Intifada started in Israel, a woman was living in the territories, maybe in Kever, I don't know where she was living, and she had a little boy. And because of the situation that was so difficult, she went to Kever Rochel and invited Rochel to come to the bris. And we had a bris, and a strange lady showed up in a long white gown, and she talked to all of the people, she greeted all of the people. She was described as being very, very gentle and very warm and very maternal. No one knew who she was. And when they developed the pictures of the bris, she was not in the pictures.
Developed? I think you were 20 years ago.
36 millimeter film.
So then how do you prove that she was there?
Can't prove anything. This is a story that I heard, that I choose to believe. You don't have to believe it. I believe it. What's important is me, Rochel, to make an appearance now. I want your people to understand who Rochel is. Rochel Mevaka, it says in Chumash Rashi. Rochel has 2 children, and Leah has 6. And when Leah's children, you have it by Rus, right? She should be like Rochel Kaleah. Rus married Boaz. Boaz was from Shevet Yehuda. Boaz was the great-grandfather of David HaMelech. And when they praise Rus, I think it's in Rus, that she's joining the family of the Jewish people, so the people of Yehuda say she should be like Rochel and like Leah. It doesn't make sense. Why would somebody who's a grandson of Leah put the Rochel before Leah? Leah had more children. Leah's children were older, because everybody knew that the first mother of the Jewish people is Rochel. The first mother of the Jewish people is Rochel. And what's Rochel's story? Of course, there's a lot of ways of spinning it, and Professor Fried will explain to us all the intellectual ways of explaining it based on selfishness and circumstance. But we Nebuch are stuck with the old-fashioned, useless Torah that gives us its version of history. It's not based on fact, it's based on whatever they want it to be. And in this ancient Torah, it says that the reason Rochel is not in the Maras HaMachpelah is because Rochel Mevaka al Baneha. That's her role. Rochel Mevaka al Baneha. That means Rochel cries for her children. That's what she does. Yaakov Avinu and Leah are comfortable in the Maras HaMachpelah. I don't know how much they're comfortable they are in Kever now, but they have their place. This is the place for the Ovis and the Emois. Adam and Chava buried Maras HaMachpelah. The Gemara says, Adam and Chava buried Maras HaMachpelah. Rashi brings Kiryas HaArba. Avraham and Sarah buried Maras HaMachpelah. Yitzchak and Rivka buried in Maras HaMachpelah. Yaakov and Leah buried in Maras HaMachpelah. Rachel's on the road. Mamish off in Weg. They didn't even take her to a cemetery. They buried her on the side of the road. Then she's still on the side of the road. I don't know if they desecrated her grave or not there. The Seinei Yisrael. So the Chazal tell us that the Rochel chose this. She chose this. In other words, even though Yaakov explains it to Yosef HaTzadik, but she had a choice. And Rochel says, I want to be where my children need me. And when she says my children, she doesn't mean Yosef and Binyamin. I don't know if you know the history of the Jewish people, but Shevet Binyamin, Leah's second son, is pure hell. Shevet Binyamin is called Ben Oini, with an ayin, not with an aleph. Shevet Binyamin is one of the 12 tribes. It's a tribe that's so full of suffering, it's unimaginable. This is Rachel's second son. And when Rochel davens, she doesn't daven only for Yosef and Binyamin. She davens for every one of us. She's our mother, Rochel. I didn't plan on the emotion, I promise you, but I'm going to say this. What does Rochel do? The Jewish people are going into Golus, and they pass by Kever Rochel. And they stop and they daven. And Rochel goes before God and she negotiates. She argues with him. And the Eibishter explains to Rochel why the Jewish people deserve this. The Eibishter explains to Rochel why the Jewish people deserve this. And Rochel doesn't buy it. And she argues with the Eibishter. And she wins the argument. She wins the argument. So today is a very important day. In this particular year, for Rochel to be mavak al baneha. And part of that bikui, part of that crying and that tefillah, we're living in America, people. You have no idea how many hearts. When this war is over, we're first going to begin to mourn what happened. You don't understand. We're fighting a war. And when you fight a war, you can't stop and think about losses. The loss that we suffered is so, and the ripples. Ripples. What happened to us as a people in the last few weeks is so gigantic. We have no words. And it's Rochel's our mother. And mothers love unconditionally. You know what that means? They love the bad kids too, you understand? They love the children who hate everything that Rochel stands for, Rochel loves. That's what Rochel Imenu does. And this is a moment. For Rochel b'mvaka al baneha. And I'm sorry for saying this, but it has to be said. Part of that bikui is that the Eibishter should put into the hearts of the Jewish people the courage and the strength and the self-respect to finish what they're starting. So it's not just, as they say, a cycle, that tomorrow it happens again and tomorrow it happens again. Jewish people are not violent people, everybody knows it. Jewish people love life. But Jewish people have tried so hard to be nice. And the nicer they are, the worse they become. The worse they're viewed. The kinder they are, the more the world hates them. Not just the Muslims. Our so-called friends. It's just unbelievable. Rochel has to either put free will into our leaders or take free will away from our leaders, whatever it takes. The Rebbe said once, better don't start a war than start a war and don't finish it. We have to finish this. Not just for the sake of the Jews, for the sake of the Goyim. You think Hamas kills Jews? For every Jew Hamas kills, they kill 10 Muslims. I promise you. Who don't want to die. Hashem has rachmanos of the Jewish people and heal our hearts and bring a gula amitas v'ashleim. It's enough. What the Eibishter is thinking, nobody knows. But whatever it is that has to happen for the world to read, the Rebbe spoke once that the Gemara says that Hakel Chezon Afron. The Gemara says Hakel Chezon before Chezon Mesim one has to die, and there's a reason. Because every one of us comes from Chava, and Chava has some of the Nachash in her, and spiritually, the Nachash means death. And since Tchias HaMesim means living forever, so you have to pass away. When you deposit, you lose that piece of the nefesh, of the goof, of the levushim that have to do with Chava, and then there could be Tchias HaMesim, and you could live forever. So the Rebbe said many, many times, he especially said it in Nun Beis, that bekenyei zu sein, the ve'lofer toshuv mit v'nafshi yikofer lakel tihiyah. That we don't have to die. You just be humble like earth. In the Endish Mene Esrei, we say, in the Lakai Netzed, v'nafshi yikofer lakel tihiyah, my soul should be to everybody like dust. So the Rebbe says you don't have to actually physically leave your goof. You could lose your association with Misa. You could lose your association with the Bo Nochash Al Chava Vitul Bazuava. So v'nafshi yikofer lakel tihiyah, by being humble. So I don't know what it is the Eibishter's plan is. I really don't know. We know Mashiach is coming. And Mashiach is supposed to be Teva Nirav Anigma. And before Mashiach comes, the Rebbe said 1,000 times, L'chol b'nei Yisrael hoyo er b'meshveisam, at the last minutes of Golus, the Jews have it good. Before Mashiach comes, in Mitzrayim, before they left Mitzrayim, there was a period of unbelievable blessing for the Jewish people. And the Rebbe said that we're living in this time in the letzte Tegun that are going for goals, also the Rebbe's exact words, in the last days and moments of the goals. So for Yidden it's good, begashmius and beruchnius. So if chas v'sholem, for some reason, the Eibush has some kind of need for kach v'kach, then can this yetzer sein, there's ways of doing it spiritually. And nobody has to get hurt. Not a Yid and not a Goy. Not a Yid and not a Goy. And the real lesson here, Rabbi Yossi, is that there is real righteousness in the world. And there's real evil in the world. And it's time for people to wake up and have wisdom to understand that sometimes the person who's killing is righteous and the person being killed is evil. And sometimes the person being compassionate is evil. And the person crying and pleading and mourning is a Rasha Merusha is evil. We have to start having seichel. And if there's anything, I teach the boys in the morning, we're learning a Maimer. It's about Chanukah. And the whole section that we're involved with, and this week we almost didn't learn, we just talked with Abraham every single morning. The whole section we're involved with is that common sense doesn't exist without God. You can't have moral law without the Eibishter. They say, what do you mean? Everybody knows you shouldn't kill. We're living in a time where people are trying to be righteous, but they don't want God to be a part of that righteousness. And look how confused it is. Look how confused it is. That the Rochel is considered a tzaddik, and the tzaddik is considered a Rochel. Why? Because if you don't have the Eibishter giving a moral compass, putting a perspective on this, it gets so confusing, and you get so caught up in narishkeiten, in stupidity, which is called common, which is called intellect, and it's called statistics, and it's called proportionality, and it's called all kinds of other silly things that are so self-effacing. If you think about history, what are people going to say in 100 years from today, 200 years today, from the people who had Rachmanis on people who want to kill Jews? What are they going to say? They're going to say they were misinformed, they didn't have enough facts. They're going to say they were lazy. They were lazy to think. They were lazy to judge a situation objectively, and they didn't have the courage to come forward and say what needed to be said because it's the truth. But it starts with us, with the Jewish people. And the Jewish people have showed themselves incapable of doing this. So today is Rochel's yard site. So let's Rochel get involved and put a little seichel into our heads. We don't believe in killing people. I'm sorry. We do not believe in killing. We do not believe in taking a life. But we don't believe in sitting around and waiting for someone to come and kill us either. The Eibusha should give safety to the whole world. I want to tell you something. Years ago, Rabbi Yossi Paltiel came to Fabreng here on Achei Temimim. He had a grandson in yeshiva. This goes back probably 20 years. And there's a recording. I have a recording someplace on my computer. If you want, I can find it for you. He told the story of Chamisha B'Teis from his experience. He was a part of it. And one of the things that he told us was that the case lingered. You know, after the public case and the Didanotzach and the celebration, it continued for 2 more years into the winter of Tafshin Nun, 1989, 1990. And I got conflicting opinions about when it was finally over. But there was a date when it was done, when it was finished, when everybody understood that the fight was over. Completed, nothing to talk about. It was a settlement, even though the Rebbe initially fought for the Sfarim and he won it in a court of law. But the mopping up, the Rebbe allowed the Aguch to make the decision to make a settlement, and a settlement was reached. So when Rabbi Krinsky went into the Rebbe to give the Rebbe the Besura Teva, the Rebbe said these words: Nu, kemen gein zogen Chassidus. Zol sein Shalom in the ganze Welt, Zol sein Shalom in Eretz Yisrael. Which means in English, nu, so I can go say Chassidus now. Which, from what I know, I'm still waiting for that Chassidus. There should be peace in the whole world, there should be peace in Israel. And I was sitting at that Fabrengen, and I heard Rabbi Krinsky say those words, and I'm assuming they're verbatim. You know, the Rebbe tells you something privately, something so poignant. At such a moment, I think it's for sure that Rabbi Krinsky remembers the Rebbe's words exactly, but I got a shudder. You know? The Rebbe said there should be peace in the whole world, there should be peace in Israel. What does that sound to you like? So it's on Shalom in the ganze Welt and Shalom in Israel. It sounds like in order to be Shalom in Israel, it needs to be Shalom in the whole world. But what's Shalom in the whole world? What's Shalom in the whole world? That we appreciate what's right and what's wrong. Be'emes. be'emes. And to appreciate what's right and what's wrong be'emes, you have to have principle. And you cannot be selfish. And you can't think about your interests. These are very, very hard things to happen in the world governed by politics, by self-interest. But that's what Mashiach is going to bring to the world. Shalom Amiti. We're not one country's interests are met or another country's interests met. Everybody's interests are met. And everybody's richer for it. But you have to have seichel. So we are, all of us in Achei here are reaching out to Mama Rochel and saying, stop sleeping. I'm sure she's not sleeping, she hasn't slept in a while, but stop sleeping. The Chazal say, you have this in Sfarim. Then the kinnis, Yirmiyah goes to the office. By the story of Purim, they went to the office. Where are you sleeping? Anyway, I prepared a class this morning